Hello and welcome to this video. This video is about how to make these, right? Yes, a slow jig or a fast jig or whatever type of jig you want, right? That's what this video is about. And in this video, I'm not going to show me painting them or anything else like that. I'm just going to walk through the materials you need, some of the tools you need, and the procedure you go through. That's it, basically. So if you fast forward, you won't know what's going on and you'll ask me some specific details and I'll say, watch the video. Okay, so this is a slow jig. This one is 100 grams. That's what it is. And I produced this anywhere. No special tools. You don't need any heating elements. You don't need anything in particular. Just stuff you can pick up in a hardware store or buy from AliExpress or any other Chinese platform. There are no links in this video, but everything I bought to make the jigs you will find on AliExpress, including these, right? This is the mold that I use for it. And funnily enough, you take your fingers, you go on to AliExpress or wherever, and you type in jig mold, and some will pop up, and eventually you'll find this one, and then you will purchase it, or not. Now, the process I'm going to show you is known as hot stamping, but that is not what I'm going to do. I have worked at this for over 2 months last year to bring it to this level where I am now, where you don't need heating elements or anything like that. This is a very simple process and you can do it anywhere. The first thing you have to understand is the quality of the foil is the most important thing here. So when you go onto AliExpress, there'll be lots of different types there, and you are to ignore the cheaper ones. They will cause you problems. You can work with them, but this is at another level, and I'm not going to talk about that in this video. This is just getting it done and getting you fishing. That's what this is. So I'm going to show you the foil that you need to get. And this is what it looks like. It is extremely delicate and it's fish scales, right? And this is 12 microns thick, okay? And you have to be very gentle with it. And this will adhere to most jigs, whether they have flaws in the cast themselves or not. If this is done on an industrial scale, they use centrifugal casts, and this eliminates this problem you have with home casting, okay, or jig making. These molds are porous, they're not machined, they're cast, and they put imperfections into the mold, coupled with the fact that you get layering while the lead is cooling as it's pouring into the jig mold. This will cause you problems. So what you do is you get the most expensive foil, right? It will not be perfect, but it will work. It will get you fishing and you won't know the difference. Remember, these are going to get stuck in a rock, sometimes first cast. So you don't want to be investing too much effort into them. They have to look good and they have to catch fish. That's it. They don't have to be perfect. And this video is going to get you fishing. I'm going to give you some examples of an unperfect jig. This one here, I didn't paint the jig first. I just printed straight onto the lead, right? And you can see on it, it's not the best. It's got some shadows and dark spots. But this will catch fish. I'll show you one that I have painted before and you'll see the difference in it straight away. There is no shadows or dark spots, okay? There is some places where the foil didn't adhere properly, but you can't get around that. It's just not going to happen. Well, you can, but it takes a lot of work. And I'll explain. People who are selling on a retail platform, they need to be perfect. People pay a lot of money for these. This is like back garden industry you'll find in Asia. They take this blank, this imperfect blank, they take this, they cover it in Izipon, they sand them down, they paint them. Now the paint is, the primer paint is actually the glue that is going to make the foil adhere to the jig body. And this is done with a heating element, okay? And you will see this later, or actually you won't, but you'll see the process without the heating element. Yes. And if you want to make a better standard of jigs and you don't have a centrifugal mold or cast, this is how it's done. It is extremely time consuming, but if you want to do it, that's how you do it. Some people will use cheaper foils to save themselves money later down the road, but you have to do the work to prep the jig body for that cheaper foil. And I have some of that here too. I'll give you a look at it. Right, this is the cheaper foil. And what makes this, it's a lovely pattern, right? What makes this cheaper is it's thicker. And that makes it harder to work with. This stuff is impossibly thin. When it comes off the plastic that it's attached to, it is thinner than gold leaf. If you've ever worked with gold leaf, it's even thinner than that. So you have to be extremely careful with it, both before you use it and after. When it's on the jig, when you've got it stuck to the jig, just don't touch it ever until you've got epoxy onto it, okay? That's it basically, right? So we're going to get started. Once you know that, right? Let's give you a look at some of the other jigs here today that I'm going to use. Today I'm going to make a painted and luminescent jig, okay? That's what I'm going to do, and it's like this one here, but just a different style, okay? That's what we're going to do today. And it is the most complicated version of what I do, so anything from that point backwards is just easier. Like, for instance, this guy here, it's just paint and foil. Yes, this is UV reactive paint, and I'll talk you through that as well. I have an explanation to why I do this and why you should do it as well. I'll link that video in the description. Yes. Before I get started, I want you to understand that if you want a cleaner jig, it is best that you paint it first. If you want the UV paint to pop, it's best that you paint it first. White works best. There are other colors, but white works best. If you use grey, it won't work. If you just put the foil onto the jig, it will go dull like I showed you before, and it just looks cleaner. So that's how I start. I take this jig, I prime it with white spray paint. And this is it here. It's just a gloss radiator paint. Whatever type of paint you want, that's what you use, okay? That's the first step. Now I'm spraying these outside, and I'm not going to show it because the camera will get destroyed, but it's just spray painting. It says how to do it in the can. Just do it in thin coats until you get it to where you need it. And it doesn't matter whether it's the primer, for instance, we'll say the white paint that I'm using, or your fluorescent attractants, or whatever colors you decide to use. There's not much point in putting other colors on it. I've designed these jigs to fish anywhere in the world. So they'll fish in shallow water or in deep water. They'll fish early in the morning or late into the evening. It doesn't matter. They'll fish in the middle of the day because of the way they're designed. And the luminescent ones, they'll fish even into darkness. So that's it here, right? Lovely UV colors. And I'll just get my UV light just to show you it pop. Okay, if this is in deep water, the shortwave radiation makes the fluorescent paint glow, and when it's in the shallow water, the white light will catch the foil and it will flash, and this will attract the fish, and it does work. I've been catching fish on it all last year. Fantastic stuff. Now, why should you do this? If you go to a tackle shop and you can't buy these patterns, they're too time consuming for companies to put together. They would cost like 50 euros each without the assists. But if you just go into a tackle shop and you're just buying a very well produced slow jig or fast jig, something like this for instance, with a pair of assists, this will set you back about 30 euros or possibly even more. After I've invested in materials and everything else, I could make 30 of these for the same money that you buy one. Okay, and this makes my videos possible. It would not be possible for me to make these videos if I did not make my own tackle. I would be broke or not fishing, one or the other, or both. This is not in any way difficult or hard to reproduce. Okay, it's very simple. So first of all, I'm going to walk you through what you need to make this. The most important thing is the foil. Go on to AliExpress. The most expensive type is the fish scale one. It's a little bit more expensive than the other ones, but it is worth every penny. And buy bulk because it gets cheaper. You can get 120 meters for a little bit more than 15, so it's worth you just like spending 40 quid on it or whatever. You'll have jigs for years, possibly decades. Okay, really, really, really cheap. Other than that, you will need epoxy, and this is the epoxy that I use. Right, that's it. There are no links, but you'll find that just it's fantastic. This one is for making molds. You can make tabletops and other stuff with it. But why I like it is it takes a long time to dry. It's very thin and there's very little bubbles in it and it stays clear. It's really nice. Fantastic. That's what you need. Yes. And it is cheap as well. You could get, there's a leader here between the two and it will set you back like 15 quid or 50, 20 euros. I don't know. Something like that. 15, 20 euros. Okay. Or pounds or whatever the hell. Dollars. $30. I don't know. But it is for casting. Okay. You make tabletops and other such things out of it. It's not for whipping on ice. For rods, it won't work for that. It's too brittle. So other than that, you need any type of spray paint, right? Fluorescent paint will always fluoresce. It's the shortwave radiation that makes it fluoresce. So whatever fluorescent paint you get will work. And everything that I use is a spray paint. So I've got the two colors. I've got pink and I've got yellow or green, depending if you want to start an argument with me. And some spray adhesive. That's it. And as I said, the white undercoat. That's it. That's what you need to make this jig. And then there's just a few things, formalities like eyes and stuff. You will also find these on AliExpress as well. This is the large size. I like these. You can put small ones. You can put whatever ones. You don't have to put eyes on them at all, right? But I like the eyes. It makes them look nice. Yes. And maybe it has an effect on the fish. Some people say it does. Some people say it doesn't. I know I fished them with eyes and without eyes. It doesn't make any difference at all. But it looks good. Looks the part, right? Fantastic. Yes. Glowing. And the glowing tape, which I just showed you, also, it's just this tape here. It comes from AliExpress. And you stick it on the jig, right? So first of all, I'm going to show you how to mask up these jigs, because you got to spray paint them. So this is what we're going for here, right? And it is very, 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 very simple, right? You need two types of tape. Well, you don't need two types, but I use two types. It makes life a little bit simpler. This fat one is to protect the backside of the jig when you're painting. I do a lot of this outside because I don't have anywhere else to do it. And the wind blows the paint around, as I was saying, and it pollutes the back of it sometimes. So I use this to cover the back so you don't have any troubles. And I use this to make the lines to spray the paint onto, right? If you look here, the clear parts with the foil on it is where the tape was, and the pink is where this paint was. Yes, that's it, simple. And you can do whatever type of patterns you want. It doesn't matter if they go sideways, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I am going to mask up one of these jigs for you, and then I'm going to paint it, foil it, and I'm going to put luminescence on it and everything else, and the eyes and everything. That's what I'm going to do now. First of all, I'm going to have to paint it. So as I said before, the first coat, you don't need to wash this, you just spray it white, okay? Take 2 or 3 passes, let it dry completely. This was out for a day. I made like 20 or 30. I painted them all, hung them up, let them dry, right? You have to get a conveyor belt going. If you're going to do them one at a time, you're going to be at this for the rest of your life. So you get them all painted up, get them all dried, right? Then on to the next step. This is the next step. So first of all, you just cut it to the width that you like. There you go, that's it. You take your tape. You could put it sideways, you can do whatever. I like it this way. Right. That's it. You just do that. You just go down the jig like that. There's no measuring. No nothing. If you're measuring it, you're overthinking the whole process. So there we go. Make sure the tape is pushed down well and is stuck to the jig. So you take your fat tape and you just stick it along the side to protect the back. That's it. Yes, that's it. Okay. So then you take your blank and you take it out and or wherever you want to paint it, and you paint it. And you take 2 or 3 passes to do it, or not, depending how messy you are. And then you will end up with this. Yes. But the other side will be blank. Okay? So now you have to put some foil on this. And this is what I'm going to do now. So, foiling the jigs is sometimes a complicated issue, and sometimes it's not. I have uncomplicated it. First of all, we'll talk about this contraption. This is 2 pieces of wood with an old gate hinge on it, right? It's just for convenience. When I do this myself, I have a frame, not an A-frame, but a square frame, and down the bottom this goes, right, with these 2 foam mats, which you can also get on AliExpress. They're quite stiff. They are heat resistant. They are for hot stamping, but they work well for this. Don't worry, they're not expensive. I picked up these 2 pieces here for just, I don't know, €5 or something. So you can also get that on AliExpress or anywhere else for that matter. No, I'm not working with Ali or anything else. This is just information I'm passing on to everybody else. So there's a frame that this sits in, and up the top there is a scissor jack for a car. And then I wind that down with a drill. It compresses this stamper, let's just say, and makes the foil stick to the jig. That's it. But for this video, I'm just going to stand on it. Okay? So you can see how easy it is. I weigh about 100 kilos. Okay? And it takes a couple of minutes to stick, and then you just leave it. Don't touch it. Don't mess with it. It's very pretty when you take the foil off, but don't touch it. Don't drop it. If you look at it sideways, the foil will peel off it and start coming away, and all your hard work will be for nothing. So just leave it. The longer you leave it, the more robust it becomes. It's still very, very sensitive until you get the epoxy onto it. How am I going to get the foil to stick? Well, as I said, I'm going to use this adhesive here, right? And you just spray it on like as if you were painting the jig. Just one pass, not very much glue, just one pass, up. And if you're doing both sides, then down. That's it. Always start spraying before, like waste spray rather than try to save it, because it will make your spray work even better. If you point it at it and press the button, you get a big build-up of glue or paint. So start spraying before you go to cover whatever item it is. That's a simple spraying technique, right? And it works for everything, glue or paint. So I'm going to go out and shoot some glue onto that, and then I'm going to get some foil on it, and then I'm going to stamp it. You can see how easy it is. No smoke and mirrors, no fancy tricks. I'm telling you everything you need to know to do this. What I say is the way it works. Okay, so I have sprayed the jig, and now I'm going to lay it onto the foil. That's it. Now, there are some imperfections in this. I'm not going to make this look perfect. If it has flaws in it, that's what it does. All my jigs have flaws in them in one way or the other. Remember, they're going to get stuck in a rock. So don't be too parental about this, right? They don't need to be perfect. Okay, this is not the same jig I showed you. I'm using different stages of jigs so I can move this video along quickly. Otherwise, I have to wait for all the paint and everything to dry. Okay? Yes. So on with the stamping. Yeah. So here is the stamp. Yes. If you have painted this side and it's nice and pretty, it's best you cover it with an old used piece of foil with no foil on it. It will protect the paint from the stamp itself. Yes. In this case, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have any pretty stuff on it. So I just close my very expensive and highly engineered jig, and now I stand on it. You can also rock backwards and forwards. You do this for about 2 minutes, okay? You just hold it there like that. Just stand on it. That's it. 2 minutes. There we go. Now, normally when I do this, like I said, I have a press for it. I get 3 or 4 jigs in there. I'm painting other guys or putting epoxy on them, whatever. You get a whole line of jigs going. You're painting, you're stamping, you're epoxying. You just do the whole lot, right? As much as you can. I have about 30 or 40 hooks on racks that I use, and I hang them up, and they're all in various different stages of completion. Yes? So you get a conveyor belt going, kind of. And this way it goes a lot faster for you. In the beginning, you're going to want to do one at a time until you perfect it. It's not very difficult. This is the jig you just saw me stamping. And just so there's absolutely no trickery, right? This is what it looks like. I'm just going to peel it off. Like I said, I don't like to touch them, so I always just put this guy in here. And whatever way it comes out, I'm going to use it. If it's got bald patches, I just put paint over it. So that's it there. Boink. Yes. So yeah, there you go. That's pretty good. It has got some fail points in it, but you won't see it for the white because of the white underneath. As I was saying, if it was just grey metal, it would cause shadows when you go to paint it. That's it there. So now we're going to say, for the sake of argument, that we've got to this point here. We've got paint on this side and we have the foil on this side. So what I'm going to do with this jig is put some luminescent strips on both sides then dip it, and that's it basically. That's how you make the jig, right? Right, when the jig has just got foil on it, you can't stick anything to it. When you try to pull the tape away, it will remove the foil. So if you want to paint it and stick tape over the foil, you're going to have to cover it in epoxy first, yes? But in this case, I'm not going to be removing any tape. I'm just going to be applying tape, which is this luminescent tape, and it's not going to come off. I'm not going to take it off. I'm not going to paint it. I'm just going to coat this again. For instance, with this jig here, before I added that paint to it, I had to cover it in one layer of epoxy, right? Then I let it dry, and then I added the tape and I painted it, right? One side at a time. This is a bit time consuming, yes. But remember, you have a whole load of them on the go. So by the time 2 or 3 days are passed, you have 30 or 40 of these things. And that will actually save you hundreds of euros or pounds or whatever you got going there, dollars, whatever. It will save you hundreds, not like 50, hundreds of pounds, 400, 500 pounds maybe. So it's really actually well worth it. And you'll have jigs either for that season or for the next few seasons. It's worth putting the effort into it. So if you're going to paint it after you foil it, you have to put epoxy on it first, paint it, let it dry, and then put on epoxy again to protect the paint that you put on and the eyes. Okay, so first of all, just like before, the same way as I did the masking for the painting, I'm going to do that with these. And you waste quite a bit of material doing this, always. If you try to save it, you'll waste even more. So it's like tag ends, right? Give yourself space to work with it. And the joy of this is you can make any variations that you think will work. And it's like an experiment. See which ones work best for you. So that's it there. So make sure they're pushed down and adhere to the jig as well as possible. The epoxy will hold it on. It will not come off. It's very hard to get it off anyway once you push it down properly. If the epoxy gets under it, it will lift it off the jig, but it will be held there by the epoxy. It will just look crappy, okay? So just push down those edges. There we go. Now, we're nearly there. I'm going to do this side, the white bit in between. Then you need a couple of eyes just to seal the deal, make it look nice. So there we go. Right, that's it there. Now some epoxy. This is where we are right now. If you want to save yourself a bit of time and you don't mind the way the jigs look, you don't have to do the white paint first. You can just put the foil on it, then epoxy, paint it, or put aluminum strips on it, then epoxy again. That's it. That's all you have to do. So yes, the epoxy is epoxy. It's a two-part epoxy. I'm going to mix up a whole bunch of it because I got a whole lot of jigs to do, but I will show you this jig here. Right, this stuff takes, I think, 14 hours to cure completely. So I don't recommend you ever touch it, not for a day or two like that. Okay, if you wanted to set more slowly, put less hardener in it. It's quite simple. If you wanted to set more quickly, put more hardener in it. Don't do that. Don't do that, it'll make your life miserable. So I'm going to work with this the way they say it. However much of this you use half of this, right? So if you use 100 grams of this, use 50 grams of that, right? Couldn't be more simple. So I'll get with the mixing. I even got a special spoon. Shut up. So here we go, the last step. Here's the epoxy, all ready to go. If it's not deep enough, just turn it over. Then let the excess drain off. That's it, simply. And so it's there, it is there. So that's it. Now you just let it dry. Don't touch it, okay? It's very tempting when you think they're dry to touch them, and then all your hard work goes, well, it's not to waste, but it ends up kind of tired and cloudy looking. So just leave it for a day and a half until it's absolutely dry. You will reap the benefits in your own head afterwards. It's very tempting to touch them. They're all shiny and stuff. Fantastic. So before I say goodbye, just to recap what you need to do this, right? Get the most expensive foil you can, whether you're getting it on AliExpress, Temu, wherever you get it from. The only place I can find it is the Chinese platforms, and it's the fish scale one. There is an even better one that has even smaller fish scales. Get that one. It's even more expensive if you can find it. There's also colored ones. They're also more expensive. If you can get the microns on them, all the better. The one I use is 12 microns. And then apart from that, the only thing you have to buy is the wood, which you'll probably find someplace. A hinge if you need it. You could just use 2 pieces of wood if you wanted. It doesn't even need to be hinged, but it makes life a little bit easier on you. The spray paint you can get in any hardware store. The glue you can get in any hardware store. That's it. The foam for stamping it, you have to get off AliExpress. I'm sure you could use something else. You could make some out of some silicone if you have some bathroom silicone or something. Put that into a mold, let that cure for a month or 2. There's many different types of options. I don't think soft foam will work very well. It needs to have that pressure. It needs to have that pressure. It needs to be pushed onto it quite hard. Don't push it too hard. You can push too hard. 100 kilos of weight is more than enough to get the job done, as far as I can tell. Possibly even less. So I hope you liked it. I hope it catches you some fish, and I hope it saves you some money. I'm Billy. This is Billy Making Jigs. Wherever you are in the world, remember, I'll see you on the beach. Bye.